Every once in a while, you can feel yourself getting sick. It comes on. You get a little tickle in the back of the throat. Your voice starts to give out, like mine has today. And then you think to yourself, there's one thing that will solve all of this: a very stiff cocktail. A very stiff hot toddy can take care of everything. And then you realize it's dry January. So you must suffer through your sickness on the air. Hello, everyone. It's Peter Dunn, Pete the Planner, the Pete the Planner Middle School Podcast, where my voice is going to crack throughout the podcast. Dame, hello.
Hello.
Kristen, girls' voices never crack, right?
Not as a rule, I don't think.
Dame, when were your crack phase? When were you addicted to crack? Your voice cracking.
I don't know, sometime in middle school, but I mean, even now, if I try and yell, it'll crack now, which is embarrassing because you try and sound authoritative and somewhat intimidating, and all of a sudden it's just Peter Brady.
Quincy on YouTube Live says throat coat tea. I've gone to some black tea with some honey. You want to hear some bougie honey that I have that's actually not as bougie as it sounds? Mrs. Planner's aunties, if you will, both are Benedictine nuns in Kansas. This is going down a crazy path. And these are working nuns, meaning some of them are firefighters. Some of them make ales.
Okay.
And these are beekeepers. So they gave us some honey over the holidays made by Benedictine nuns in Kansas. And so I've been taking the black tea and just pouring so much nun honey. What if it's just called nunny? It's really good.
Does it get blessed before it gets sent out?
That's a great question.
I feel
it's
like
a great question. Andy, we are back to the right times. You are correct. Right time, right day. Sorry for the switch up last week. Hello, Rochelle. Jameson, Brandon Jameson. Everyone loves Brandon Jameson. Good day. Happy Friday to you from Jameson Schuler, Fused Glass Artist. That's new. The Fused Glass Artist is new.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeremy made it to the show before the show started. Hello, Jeremy. All right. So T-minus a couple weeks now until the show changes a little bit in a really fun way. I think I can give you details next week. I think.
Okay.
Again, I'm often accused of teasing, but this is happening. We gotta work out the details. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're really excited about it. Should grow the audience significantly. It's with that, Dame. I have a question that came in today that I think our conversation can get so spicy that it could last the entire show.
Man, yet another tease.
Well, you know what it's about.
I do, but I mean, I don't even know all of the context. I know kind of the situation, but I don't know all of the specific questions. And I think you're right. I think this we could dig in on this one.
We're being asked to evaluate a financial advisor's job. How are they doing? And we're given one side of the story, and all three of us are very pro financial advisors. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to try to come out of this with an actually distilled take as opposed to it depends. And I would encourage both of you to do the same.
Okay.
Hi, Cheryl. Good to be with you. All right. Well, go ahead.
Are you going to threaten to put Dame and I in one of those get along shirts again?
Oh, that was good. Kristen, what's going on in your life? Your dog was sick overnight, so you didn't get much sleep.
Yes, unfortunately. We are 17 days into 75 hard. So I'm feeling mentally tough. I feel like I'm turning a corner. So that's exciting.
How's this work? Let's say you put a bunch of work in to 75 hard and you get some results that you want. I don't know if it's feeling better or looking better. Is it in that spectrum?
Yeah, for me, it's really a mental toughness challenge.
Okay.
Is commit to this hard thing for 75 days. Cause Kristen, you can do anything.
That is, Dame, if I've ever heard a phrase that captures Kristen's sentiment more than you can do anything, that is basically Kristen in a nutshell.
Yeah, that is just get out of the way. I mean, that would be the other one.
Dame, if you did 75 hard, would you do it to feel better or look better or both?
Look better. That ship has sailed. I mean, it's just going to be feel better at this point. Which, I mean, what is feeling better when you're creeping up on 50 years old?
I am thickening up like a good stew.
Yeah.
I am so like my neck is growing necks. I feel like if I were in medieval times, I wouldn't even need a collar because my neck fat is the collar. I got to do something. I do want to like get after it, but I also feel so sick I can't do anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when. I mean, you and I think we've both recognized this gradual slide into whatever it is we are becoming at this point, and like it just seems like it's accelerating at this point. I don't know how to stop it. Well, I have some good ideas, but I don't know if I want to stop doing those things to stop it.
By the way, breaking news.
Oh,
just came across the Pete the Planner news desk. The Supreme Court has ruled and has upheld the TikTok ban.
okay.
Devastating.
Oh, Christy's upset.
I am. How am I supposed to get my news?
Somebody will buy it. It'll be back.
Mr. Beast is going to buy it and give away Feastables. Beastables. I don't know what it is. I put out a bunch more social media clips this week.
Indeed.
Guys, can we work on a formal open to the show? Let's just work this out live. So here's what we're going to do is I'm going to say, welcome to the Pete the Planner podcast. And then Kristen, I want you to say, I'm Kristen Elanius, and then give a little bit of a bio, like a 2-line bio. Financial educator, professor, whatever you want to say. Dame, you do like a father, raconteur, whatever. And I'll say, and I'm Pete the Planner, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll say, be sure to watch the show as well as to listen to it. Okay. So one of my favorite podcasts called One Song. Everyone calm down. One of my favorite podcasts called One Song. They do this at the beginning of every segment or every show. And I've grown to like it. All right. So here we go.
I don't know
Kristen,
anything about me. I don't
Kristen,
like this.
if you mess this up, like we're really evaluating talent on this show right now.
That's fine. Everyone's replaced.
Kristen, you can do anything you put your mind to. Just consider this 76 hard. Okay. All right. Welcome to the Pete the Planner show. You jacked it up. I said,
introduce yourself.
No,
first.
I'm third. You're not listening.
Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't listening. I was nervous. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Now, just so you know, now you're second. Dame's first.
Okay. All right.
Okay. This is the Pete the Planner show.
I'm Damian Dunn, certified financial planner practitioner and thin pillow aficionado.
I'm Kristen Elanius, financial professional and golden retriever lover.
And I'm Pete the Planner, author, speaker, and amateur cook.
We're evaluating talent on this show.
I'll let the live audience.
Wait, how did I do worse than everybody?
Who might have choked on that one?
Dames was so good.
Dames was good.
Threw
I don't
me
even.
off. What was the last thing you said you were?
Thin pillow aficionado.
Oh, you're a thin pillow guy?
Thin pillow. Team
wow. Like, man, I'm 1 to 10. 10 being the like you're gonna have a neck ache for a week.
Mhm.
I'm probably a 6, I think.
So I progress throughout the night. I start kind of inclined, but then once I doze off, the big pillows come off and I'm just basically flat on the mattress.
Kristen, pillow?
Your ages are showing.
Well, I mean, geez. Look at all this neck fat. Go ahead.
You gave like a firmness scale or like a thick scale, like an 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Show starts in 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner show, you'll notice that I'm sick. And you'll also notice that we answer your money questions. Here's how it works. You email us at askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And we answer your questions. By we, I mean Kristen Elanius, dog mother, and Damian Dunn, thin pillow aficionado, who joined me. Hello, friends.
Hello.
Hey, Pete.
Since my voice is failing today, you may have to step in, but boy, do we have a spicy meatball to start the show this week. We received an email, and I think it could cause some pretty heated debate. So let's get to that email right now. Here it is. Dear Pete the Planner.
Next.
Some of our retirement savings is being managed by an investment advisor we hired 4 years ago. Quick timeout. Dame, I saw your eyes. I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to think what is going on in the economy 4 years ago.
Mhm.
So it takes us to 2021.
Mm-hmm.
The market did really well in 2020, despite the fact that we were all terrified. It did really well in 2021, and then it dumped in 2022. Okay. The advisor is trustworthy and has high integrity, but I have 3 concerns. His fees are 1.25%. The emailer notes, considering the 4% rule in retirement, which again, we could debate for 2 more segments, fees would equate to 25% of our annual distributions. Number 2, he has underperformed the market. I would be less concerned about fees if we are at least close to market performance, but we're not. Number 3, we don't meet or get portfolio updates. Aside from our initial sit down and a couple of meetings where he gave advice, we don't have any quarterly, annual reports or conversation about our financial future. It seems like the spectrum of expectations for advisors is pretty wide. At a minimum, I feel like we should be meeting once a year to review our portfolio, talk about goals, and do some intentional planning for our future. What should I do? Sincerely, feeling overwhelmed.
Mhm.
I asked for a follow-up. How many assets? And it's about $500,000. So both of you are certified financial planner practitioners
Mhm.
or certified financial planner professionals, which are the same thing. Just the CFP board is tedious, which I can say because I'm not subject to their discipline. Kristen, let's start with you. Where's your head go here?
You know, I'm a little on the fence about this fee and whether I feel that it's appropriate given the level of service that they're receiving.
What has you on the fence?
Well, I mean, it feels high, no?
Yeah, that's where I'm like, that's where I'm wondering where you're not on one side of the pasture or not, because it doesn't seem like a fence sitting fee. 1% could get me on the fence. 1.25's got me standing in cow patties.
But the reason why is because we are so pro financial advisor on this show, I'm trying to give this professional the benefit of the doubt and say, because really what I'm concerned about as an underlying issue here is this all just a byproduct of less than great communication?
That's a really good point. I had not considered that. Before we dig deep into that, Dame, what are your initial flags?
I mean, the fees, if you hadn't thrown the asset level in there, I wouldn't know if I'd have as big of an issue with the fees as you two might, because $1.25 is becoming pretty darn normal. It seems like, Pete, I don't know about you. Back when you and I were doing this professionally, it seemed like the standard was 1.
Yep, and that's my basis of understanding. That was 20 years ago when I used to be useful.
And the conversation was that fees were going to get eroded. I mean, they were just going to go down. Like 1 was the high point, and we were going to see just a consistent drop in what you were going to be able to charge for the average client. With the advisors I talk to these days, that's just not the case. Fees have actually gone the other direction. So, I mean, we could argue whether or not $1.25, 1.25% is reasonable for somebody with $500,000 of assets. I think that gets back to what Kristen's point is. If the services are there to justify it, potentially, but I don't want to chase any of these trails too far just yet. So the fee potentially is the one thing that really jumps out at me is no regular meetings or reports. That is bothersome.
Well, that goes back to Kristen's point, though, that and it makes some sense to me. This could be a communication problem,
Potentially.
right? Like, Kristen, what's your name?
Cricket.
Cricket. I sound like a cricket today.
Huh?
Cricket. When you engage with a financial advisor and they say, hey, it's going to cost you $1.25 a year W- and here's how often. Don't they tell you how often you meet or what you get for that? Or I look over it. Like, how does that work?
I would think so, but also if there isn't communication happening of I'm not satisfied with the level of meetings, and maybe there is, I don't know, but if this person's not saying, "Hey, financial planner, I don't feel like we're meeting frequently enough," they might think that this particular client is okay with not meeting because as the three of us know, there are many clients who are okay with just that. They don't need to hear from their financial professional. That's what I pay you for.
Yeah, but
Okay.
that should have been established at the meeting where you're signing all the paperwork to have a professional relationship together. You should have a baseline understanding of, hey, let's plan on meeting at least once a year for an annual review. And then if you've got phone calls or emails that you need me to field in the meantime, let's do that. And then if there are additional face-to-faces that need to happen, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But the fact that there are no regular meetings is I can't imagine signing a contract saying basically you're just going to manage my money, and I mean you'll get your statements from the broker dealer at this point. That just doesn't make any sense.
People do that all the time.
All right, here's how I'm thinking about this. For $6,200 a year,
Right.
$6,250 a year, is it a reasonable expectation of the client that they're able to sit down 4 times with this person?
No.
I actually agree, Kristen. I think we got to start there. I don't think for a $6,200 fee, and for some people hearing that, it sounds like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a reasonable expectation to want to sit down or talk every quarter. To sit down semi-annually, I could be convinced, and by God, of course, annually. But Dane, what do you think? Quarterly? That seems like
Quarterly is way too much.
it's a bad idea on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, unless you've got a super involved situation where you need a little extra hand holding maybe to get things started, sure. But at that point, I mean, there's just not going to be too many moving parts with $500,000 portfolio at this point. And so you are going to talk about investment performance, readdress any goals, make sure priorities haven't changed. Man, semi-annually is the most that I think you would need to meet with somebody in that case, and annually is very, very likely appropriate.
Here's what's going to be frustrating to this emailer. And $500,000, I guess we could say objectively, is a lot of money. But for a financial advisor, $500,000 is not a lot of money.
No.
No, you're probably a B client at best.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, depending on who the advisor is, you're right. Probably a C client.
Probably.
Yeah, the old
their
saying,
planner might be managing this.
yeah, the eyes of the advisor are not going to this client. What's the old saying? If you have A clients, B clients, and see you later clients, right? Kristen, you like that one?
I never heard that.
All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. Let's calm down, take a lozenge, and then anyway, and we'll come back. We'll dig deeper into this question. Should this emailer fire their financial advisor? All that's next on the advisor-friendly Pete the Planner show. You guys want to hear a very on-brand thing happening to me right now in the moment?
Yes.
I'm getting text messages from my friend who's on a flight back from Dubai about a soccer tournament.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, it's very. I've told you, and Kristen, you don't know this because you don't hang out with other dog parents. You don't become friends because the dogs became friends first. But Dame gets this: the people you become friends with because of your kids' activities, it's the greatest surprise of life. It's the best.
Yeah.
Like if you took your dogs to doggy daycare and they're doing a little extra sniffing around a special dog, and then now you've got to become friends with that person. That's weird. Like that's borderline criminal. But Dame and I, our kids hang out with some other kid we don't know, and all of a sudden we're having beers with their parents.
Yeah. I mean, the swim weekends are long. I mean, you got to go find time to do something semi-enjoyable, and that's it.
Regular of the show, Brian agrees. He knows. His daughter plays basketball and gymnastics, and it's just part of the community. It's what you do. Speaking of, one of our other friends who's Irish was in Ireland at his homeland over the holiday. Comes to pick up Theodore for some soccer training this week. Brings me a bottle of Irish whiskey that he bought for me in Ireland. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. And it's dry January, so I could have used it.
It's dry first quarter.
Well,
That's what you said.
when have I ever listened to anything I've said?
Nah, that's true.
You guys, I've got two things I want to talk through. Maybe we have time for both of them right now. Maybe one during the next break. But Kristen, your choice.
No boy.
Current YouTube rabbit hole I found myself down, or what I lay awake at night thinking about. What do you want?
The latter. Your
All right.
YouTube worries me.
All right, we'll hit that one in the next segment. I actually shared it my YouTube rabbit hole with Mrs. Planer last night. Never seen that look on her face before. Been together for almost 30 years. I've never seen that look on her face. It was disappointment plus confusion / like joining an attorney. All right, Dame, this may resonate with you. First of all, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being, oh my gosh. How do you feel about sandwiches, Dame?
I love sandwiches. I'm probably I'm a 7, 8,
Kristen?
maybe.
10.
Yeah, I'm a 13. Like I've got sandwich problems. So I'm laying awake these last few nights thinking about making the perfect beef on weck, which is a buffalo sandwich, Buffalo, New York sandwich. It's a German Kaiser-like roll called a Kimmelweck roll. So it's got like coarse salt and caraway seeds on top. So I'm going to make these buns. Then I'm going to make my own roast beef with this top eye round. And then I'm getting this meat slicer so I can thinly slice it. Take a little au jus, dip the top bun in the au jus, put it over the fresh sliced medium rare roast beef, and then some prepared horseradish cream. Whoosh, whoosh. I can't sleep the last 2 or 3 nights. I've been thinking about making this entire extravaganza. And then I go to talk to my life partner about this after I also broached the topic of my YouTube habits. She's not interested in entertaining that conversation. So I'm just outreaching to you all to see what you think.
First of all, this is a great opportunity to revive Pete's Eats for that.
Look at my chins.
But then I was going to say, but second of all, this is how you grow chins in the middle of the night.
What do you think, Kristen?
Did you know the name of the beef that you'll be eating?
Yeah. In terms of like the cattle?
Yeah.
Okay. This is also bothersome. Friend of the show.
Oh,
geez.
Wow.
Shirtless cowboy Neil Brown says that sandwich is generally disappointing. First of all, that's not right. You're wrong, chef. I will say this, that Neil did something very nice for me 2 nights ago. I asked him why my pan sauces are terrible in our group chat. Well, Kristen, what's that? This is what old men talk to each other about.
Your group chats are just not relatable to me.
What do yours talk about?
We're going bowling today, maybe.
So my group chat, Neil and our buddy Chip, it's book recommendations, recipes, and job stuff. Like it's the weirdest thing. Anyway, he made a dinner last night to show me the viscosity of the sauce and the quality of the bubbles within the reduction that should be. He's a James Beard nominated chef. Like he's a big deal. But that's my group chat is videos of viscosity and bubble size. But it is hurtful for him to say the sandwich is generally disappointing.
Maybe
I don't like you.
Figured out how to make it yet.
Would it be a fun team building activity if we had Neil come and do a cooking class for all of us where we learn to make like a really good iconic dish? Would that be fun?
A demo? Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do that at reunion. Let's get back to the show. My voice is fading.
3 segments to go.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. I need a lozenge. 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. Staying calm. Answering questions about whether emailer should dump their financial advisor. There were 3 reasons they wanted to. Number 1, They're paying 1.25% a year on $500,000 assets under management. Number two, they're underperforming the market. And number three, they're not meeting as much as they want to meet with the advisor. So far, we have debated, but mostly agree, that the fee could theoretically be too high, although Dame has noted that fees have sort of gone up.
Yeah.
Fees have gone up in the financial advising world, which is weird because in most of the financial space, you see fee compression. So 1.25, let's just get binary here. 1.25 on $500,000 of assets. Dame, average, high or low for you? That's not binary.
I think it's average these days.
I think it's ternary is the 3. Average. Kristen?
Average.
I'm going to be a jerk and say it's too high.
Okay.
But I'm going to say it's too high in relation to this doesn't seem like a young advisor building their practice where they're going to overserve you to build their book. This seems like an established advisor where this person's a C client. So you're paying more for this established advisor who's not going to talk to you.
But I mean, okay, let's say that's all true. If the fee's the fee, I mean, then it's the service that's the issue. If the fee is what could be expected at a smattering of other opportunities or other options with financial advisors, then it becomes finding the right service fit, right?
Yes, I think that's true. But we've also just agreed before the break that 4 times a year, which is what the emailer kind of wants, completely unrealistic.
Yes.
2 times a year, maybe. Kristen, disagree?
Well, I think that maybe we're glossing over the fact that there is a distinction with the difference between, in practice, a financial planner and an investment advisor. And what is this professional actually doing? Are they kind of a mix of both? Are they really one or the other? It sounds to me like the emailer really wants more of a financial planner. They're dissatisfied with the investment returns. They want someone to check in. Am I on track? To me, that's planner territory where you would pay like a flat fee for that one time or multi-time a year financial plan. It could be a misalignment of just like what this professional actually does.
And I'm wondering, you know, it said, I think what the complaint was no regular meetings or reports. Are we confusing face-to-faces of phone calls and emails with just touches? Like could automated email reports on performance satisfy this need 2 to 3 times a year?
I think, Kristen, I kind of disagree with you. I think this is about investment advice. I think this is about the emailer reads something and would want to talk about it in the news or in investment news, or has an idea or sees a trend. And then those sort of outreaches are not welcomed.
Sure.
Because the advisor's like, I'm a buy and hold advisor, which is incredibly likely.
Yeah. I mean, and that turns into maintenance and time for that client. And if you're a financial advisor, you are welcome to feel any way you want about this next statement. They can't afford, if their business model is not built on that fee is not enough to have that many conversations throughout the year.
Do you think a financial advisor should say to a client, hey, based on the assets I manage, you're on the lower end, and so you're not going to get as much attention as you maybe want, and maybe you should go with a client where you're on their higher, or an advisor where you're on their higher end?
I think it'd be a fair disclosure up front saying, listen, my business is typically built with clients that have assets between this range and this range. It's going to put you solidly here, which means this is the service model you're going to get. Here's what we do. Here's a service calendar that we have. Here are the things that we try and do each month or each quarter. And if that's not something that you're comfortable with, then this may not be the best fit for you. Obviously, you're welcome to reach out to us with any concerns or questions that you've got, but you may not be talking to me directly. You may be talking to a paraplanner or somebody else at that point. So that's how we do business. That's how we're planning on servicing you. And if that's not up to your expectations, then this may not be the best fit.
Kristen, how do you start to get your head around investment returns? Because this is where I think the rubber hits the road. The last 2 years, the S&P 500 has been over 25%. And so should you, Dame, I think you said this, or actually, Kristen, you said this, of like, you got to make sure you're measuring your performance against the right index. Like how should the average investor, what is the market? The market returned this. Is it the S&P 500? Should it be? Like, how do you start to think about that?
Yeah. So first of all, I was still kind of taken back by Damien's explanation because I don't want to skip over the fact that I thought that response was really great. But it's when we're thinking about the appropriate benchmark, when you initially read this email, that was one of the very first things I thought was, just because that's what the market returned doesn't mean that that's what we should expect as investors. I'm sure that my portfolio didn't return what the market did this year, and that's okay. And so that's why benchmarks are so important. And last week, Pete taught us all about beta, and that's why you should look at the alpha of your portfolio as well.
Wow. Dame, 25% a year, the last 2 years. Can a client look at their portfolio and say, I better be close to that, or this isn't going well? Is that a fair expectation?
I mean, they can look at it and say that. I don't know that it's fair. I mean, it depends on what your allocation composition is and your diversification. I mean, goodness, Pete, you and I even had a moment of this not that long ago when we were just suddenly messaging each other about, hey, have you looked at your returns in the 401k? And we were like, yeah, it seems kind of low. And then it both hit us. Well, it's not because we're not invested solely in the S&P 500. We've got large cap, small cap, international, a smattering of bonds and cash in there. Of course, it's not totally fair for us to judge our returns based off of something that went up 25% when we've got all these other components in there that are influencing the overall outcome. So you can look at it. That's part of a communication problem for sure between the advisor and the client, making sure that they understand what benchmarks are and what's reasonable for an expected return. Now, if they aren't measuring your performance versus a reasonable benchmark, there's some questions there. I would make sure that that's part of your annual review, is that you are, I don't know, getting a reasonable return against a reasonable benchmark. That is not out of line at all.
Kristen, would you actually ask what benchmark are you measuring your own performance against the advisor?
If I were the client?
Yeah.
And I'd be asking about alpha.
Can you explain alpha for those that don't know?
Yeah. So alpha is your risk adjusted return. So Pete talked to us about beta and how having a higher beta than 1, the overall market, would mean that you were taking, in theory, more risk, where there could be more volatility in your portfolio. So the idea is when you factor that risk or volatility into your return, are you outperforming based on the amount of risk you're taking, or are you underperforming based on the amount of risk you're taking?
So, I mean, to that point, Dame, does this emailer just simply go and figure out their alpha or ask the advisor for their alpha, and that could solve the whole problem?
I mean, to some point, but if they're really hung up on underperforming the market, I mean, again, you've got to establish that first and foremost. And what is the market for you? What does that actually look like? And then go and look at alpha and see where you stand. And software these days should absolutely be able to have an alpha number for the aggregate portfolio. It shouldn't be difficult to pull that up at all.
All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to land on what this person should do. You have to have a stance.
Okay.
Or no depends. There's no depends answers. All right. That's coming up next right here on the Pete the Planner Show. If I still have a voice, I'm Pete the Planner. Lee Eisenbarth, new father.
That's right. It's a cute kid.
He's a cute kid. Congratulations, Lee, to you and your growing family. Glad everyone's doing all right.
Rumor has it that kid might receive his very first flashlight very soon.
Oh, needless to say, the kid will have a good head of hair.
Yeah.
Great hair, that Lee Eisenbarth. Did someone just open an old gate? What was that?
It was a squeak in my chair. Sorry.
My chair squeaks too.
Any critters in the barn today, Dame?
I'm sure there are. I just haven't seen them.
Jameson wants to know how's the prenatal chiropractor doing next door? It's doing okay. we're happy. Any business, any small business, we're supporters. You do hear quite a bit of carrying on through the other end of this drywall here. But look, we're aligned.
Yeah.
With the chiropractor, it's an alignment joke.
I know. Yeah, staying corrected.
All right, so here's my YouTube rabbit hole. And this is coming off some pretty weird ones in the past. The weirdest to date is probably Indian head massages, which still, I mean, it's the classics. I'll jump on there and watch it. I obviously love bourbon videos. I love cooking videos. Here's my current obsession. Drunk people getting arrested at airports. It's the best. It's the best. But here's what's bad about it. You're kind of getting entertainment off of someone's worst day.
Yeah.
That's where you feel a little bit bad. But at the same time, it's pretty fascinating.
You still dabble with the stolen valor videos that the dude I sent you?
From time to time.
Okay.
What's his name?
I can't remember. I'd have to look it up, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I know they pop up. But I do like a good airport drunken arrest video. Because they're like, what's the problem here? They're like, and then they can't talk. And then they say that I'm not drunk. I've only been drinking for the last 5 hours. And then it goes like this. The airline won't, it's very procedural. The airline won't board them. The second they refund the ticket, as opposed to rebooking them, that's a very dynamic moment of you're about to get banned from the airline for life, right? Then the cops get them outside of TSA because when they're on the other side of TSA, since they've got their money refunded, they no longer have a boarding pass because it's not active, so they are trespassing. It's wild. And I'll say, oftentimes these cops are the most patient people in the world. You're watching, you're like, I would snap at this point. They're like, hey, like, let's just get you out here so you can figure out, you can sober up, and then the people are losing it. Anyway, my favorite thing ever.
I think they should have a big thing where you can like walk up behind somebody like a big lasso and just put it around them and tighten it up and then just, escort them out that way. They'll never see it coming.
I do feel a little bad. Like since I was a kid, I used to watch Cops, and then I watched On Patrol Live, and then I love like body cam videos. I do feel a little bad. I got to be honest that I'm watching someone as entertainment in their bad days like that. I feel bad about that. It feels like the character flaw of mine. How do you feel, Kristen? You haven't said anything.
Well, I feel like there's someone that you're not thinking about in this scenario, which is the Kristens of the world who are sitting like on the edge of the camera view, who are just like melting into a puddle of anxiety because like any sort of like confrontation in public among strangers makes me just like shoot into orbit. I cannot handle it. If someone was being arrested in the airport, I don't know if I could get on the plane.
Whoa, that was an edge case I did not expect there. Dame, had you ever considered the people watching the drunk person get thrown off the plane?
No.
Oh,
I mean, so I'm focusing on Kristen here. I mean, like, so if you see two guys square off and throw
What are they doing?
fists, are you like terrified?
gone.
You don't stick around for the free entertainment?
Absolutely not. I don't trust strangers.
All right, Kristen, I'm going to wade into an uncomfortable territory here.
Oh boy.
You live in a small town,
Currently, yes.
or when you move into where
you're-
are you going to Manhattan?
I haven't always like lived on like Little House on the Prairie. I've
Okay.
lived in cities, but go ahead.
So there's a local watering hole, right?
Yeah,
And I'm guessing you've been there
once
only once.
or twice.
Okay. And so a disagreement, a kerfuffle,
Mhm.
probably not that unusual.
Relatively, actually.
But you're saying if you're sitting at the local watering hole in a small town, and this we're not talking Roadhouse, which again, iconic movie, and two people start to fight, you just get anxiety over the fight that's happening.
Absolutely.
Dame, what do you do? I feel like Dame goes and tries to break it up. Gentlemen, he flashes them with his flashlight right in their pupils. Gentlemen, Rick, stop, Rick.
I sit back. I try and get my back against the wall. That way, nobody can assume that I'm participating. Nobody can sneak up on me that way, and I enjoy.
I like back against the wall. That's a well-informed perspective. Here's my answer. I would never be there. I would never be there.
Yeah.
Sounds like, as my dad always said, nothing good happens past 10 p.m. It's true. Nothing good happens after 10 p.m.
I've been to some concerts where a lot of really good stuff happened after 10 p.m.
Nightmares fuel. Thank you. I'm now thinking about the traffic, the parking, the crowds.
Now you know how I feel about strangers being rowdy in public places.
In 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show, hanging on to my voice. It should be better next week, folks. And you're thinking, I don't care. Dame Kristen, join me as always. Here's what we're doing this segment. We are determining whether or not the emailer should dump their financial advisor. There were 3 main beefs. Kristen, I'm going to list the beefs. Beef 1, we'll call it the filet. I don't know why I'm doing that. 1.25% management fee on the $500,000 under management. Beef number 2, we'll call this the strip. Poor communication. The emailer wants to meet 4 times a year, and they barely meet at all. And number 3, which we will call a top round. Sorry, everybody. Performance, underperforming the market. So, Dame, there's underperforming the market, and then there's underperforming the market. So let's 25% S&P, like 25.5% average the last 2 years, which is monster. What is acceptable underperformance to that for an aggressive investor? I mean, if you're getting 20, you got to be pleased.
Yeah, I mean, my next question is, okay, how are they choosing to invest? Are they making picks? I mean, are you absolutely just blow a couple of stock picks, which might be excusable, but if you're doing this through a portfolio of basically mutual funds, ETFs, and alternatives, where you can really try and get closer to matching the performance of your benchmark, then I think that number creeps much closer to the benchmark. So if you are aggressive and you've got a good chunk of money in some individual equities, individual stocks, you are, I think 20% is a reasonable undershoot for performance.
Yeah, well, it's 20%, right? No, yeah, it's 20% off. Kristen?
Yeah, I almost think, Dame, to your point, in the situation where they're invested mostly in, mutual funds, ETFs, that if they are underperforming the market, I just feel like in the world of investments that we live in, that would just go to show me that the S&P is not the appropriate benchmark. Because are you really underperforming when you're basically tracking the market?
It's so top heavy, the S&P 500. All right, what is again, same scenario, aggressive investor, you're underperforming the market. What is the number of return where you go, okay, this actually is a problem? 10%?
I think that I feel when Dame's talking about 20, if I saw the 19, I think that would make me pause. And I don't know if it's just because that ratchet down into the next group of 10 is like more alarming. But probably anything less than that is where I start to turn my head.
I would go as low as 15.
I'm kind of with you.
I mean, I keep coming back as we're talking through this performance. Everybody wants to feel like they're keeping up when it comes to performance. Even if you're an aggressive investor and you feel like you've got the risk tolerance and the risk capacity to take it, I feel a lot of these questions could be mitigated, or these concerns could be mitigated with an investor policy statement, making sure that you know that this is what you have to get. This is our target return for you in the average year. You're going to shoot between 8 and 14% for whatever it is, but between that. And if you're getting 17% when the market did 25, you're still crushing your IPS. at that point. I just don't know if there's a different way to frame this, not to justify what is perceived as underperformance by the advisor, but to make sure that you understand you're still on track.
Before Kristen dives in on this, IPS, hit it.
Investor policy statement. It's going to be like a 4 or 5 page statement. It's going to lay out all sorts of stuff. It's going to talk about things that you either specifically want to invest in or want to avoid. It's going to give you a target investment rate return annually for that. And it'll highlight a whole bunch of other stuff that goes along with it. But it's just a way to make sure that the advisor and the client are on the same page, knowing what the expectations are for that relationship.
Yeah, Cricket, I want to hear your reaction to Dame.
Well, I think the 15 in a year where the market returned 25, if this person really is an aggressive investor, for the better part of the last decade, it's been relatively easy to be a high performer. And I just don't know that I think that that's enough.
I think 15 in relation to 1.2, you had to take it all together.
True.
The fee, the lack of communication or the miscommunication. I think we're missing an element here, though, guys. This person's been around their advisor for 4 years, which means they were their advisor in 2022 when the market was down 4%.
Mm-hmm.
What did their portfolio return in 2022? I think that tells you as much as anything here.
Mm-hmm.
If they outperform the market, then maybe calm down a little bit. If they underperformed, then net fees, I'd probably be Audi 5000. I'd be out.
Sure. I think it's reasonable.
Kristen, I'm going to put it to you bluntly, and
Okay.
I need an actual answer.
Okay.
Should they break up with their financial advisor?
I do think that they should break up with their financial advisor. Now, do you want the justification or do we all want to say?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I think they should break up with their financial advisor because I think that their view of the advisor, whether the advisor is in the right or in the wrong, is too tarnished for this to be a successful relationship moving forward. And maybe no one actually did anything wrong here, but their foundation in this business relationship it's faulty. It wasn't built right. And I think they need to restart a relationship knowing what they're looking for in their investment professional, re-examine their risk tolerance and their risk capacity, and find someone that's better suited to meet their needs and their goals.
Dame?
I was going to say not until they do X, Y, and Z, but as Kristen was talking, she's right. I mean, there's already an expectation that a vibe that I'm not getting what I was expecting. And chances are that number of touches or meetings is not going to change. Even if you sit down or write a letter or email or whatever to the advisor saying, this is what I expect, they're probably going to say either I'm sorry, or we can absolutely do that if you're willing to pay us an additional X on top of the fees that we take out of your portfolio for our management. And if you already think that you're not meeting your performance standards, there's no way you're going to write a check out of your checking account. The checks, Kristen, by the way, is something that we used to have in the old days. There's no way you're going to take money out of your pocket and pay them more if you think they're already not doing their job.
I agree with Kristen, 100%. Don't change a word. Kristen, I mean, who knew? This is why it's Cricket and Co. here.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to break up their advisor. And I think more importantly, when they go in to interview new advisors, they need to have a list. They need to say, let's put it together in IPS.
Mm-hmm.
Let's understand the impact and the role of alpha that makes in our decision making here. And just here's the reality. You enter into a client advisor relationship as a client with some aptitude in terms of, are you a good client or not? Now you are a part of that relationship, and no one judges you for being a good client or not, but you are something, and that interacts with that advisor. And if that chemistry is off, then you probably, to Kristen's point, need to move on, but you need to then be better when you get into the next relationship to enhance and improve the chances of that chemistry working. And it's by educating yourself to how to be a better client. I still think before I'd pull the trigger here, though, I'd check your returns for 2022. If you were up 10% and the market was down 4%, then you might be okay, because I think the market's going to turn here in the next couple of years, and I'd rather you be on the upside than capturing every point that the market captures in the good years. Is that fair? Does anybody hard disagree? We good?
No, I think you're good.
All right, let's do this. Let's take a break. I'm going to find some throat coat tea, maybe. I don't know. Got the news. We got biggest waste of money of the week, and so much more. And by so much more, I mean literally nothing else. That's all next on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. Oh, I'm fading hard. Oh my
You can do it. I talk most of this next segment.
That's true. Ooh. Oh.
I feel so much pressure. My last week's guest was so good.
Well,
Nobody expects you to duplicate it.
You know what? That's a really good point. The bar is so low for me right now.
my phone is blowing up.
A lot of people, your thread with Chip and Shep.
Chip and Neil's blown up. My mom's texting me. Adam Weber's texting me.
on TikTok, right?
And then Dubai Mitch is texting me. Dubai Mitch. All right. Let's do it. It hurts. I don't even know what I'm doing. What are we doing? Okay. Yeah. Jeez. I'm getting news as fast as I can. Kristen, I hope you have all sorts of pithy things to say about the news.
Yeah, that's me.
All right. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week, right here on the Pete the Planner Show, is voice lessons. No, Weller Millennium Whiskey. The Weller brand is known for its excellent and hard to find wheated offerings. It's now expanding into the ultra aged market with Weller Millennium. This expression is a blend of vintage, straight wheated bourbon and wheat whiskeys distilled near the turn of the millennium and matured at Buffalo Trace Distillery. By mixing whiskeys from 2000, 2003, 2005, and 2006, it highlights the smoothing impact of the wheat on the spirit, resulting in a balanced, complex sip with flavors of sweet caramel, oak, and dried fruits. Bottled at 99 proof in a 750 milliliter handcrafted crystal decanter, with a custom crystal topper hand-etched with W.L. Weller's original W stamp, it arrives in an illuminated display box that is an immediate collection centerpiece. I'm going to give you some additional context here.
Okay.
Cough my brains out. So to buy Weller, back to buy the Weller in 2000 or 2003 or 2005 or 2006, to buy like whatever the age is at the time, which is like 4 to 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
Would be somewhere between $50 to $100.
Okay.
So if you bought whiskey in the year 2000, it was probably in the barrel since 1994, and you would have paid 40, maybe $50. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I buy the Weller that comes out today, it's called Antique 107. It would cost me between $50 and $100. And I will stop there. And then you can start to guess. Kristen, how much is this bottle of whiskey?
The copy is leading me to believe that it's quite a bit more expensive than the dollar figures that you gave us. So I'm going to go with $1,300.
Dave?
What do you do with that display after the bottle's gone? Do you just leave the empty bottle in it?
I think you just annoy your partner. You just keep it on the counter, and they're like, "Will you put this somewhere?" And you're like, "Yeah, I'm getting to it."
Nightstand. He said it's lit. It could be a nightlight. Anyway, Kristen, great guess. Way too low. I mean, this is a delicious $5,000 bottle of whiskey.
10,000 American dollars. You guys, I hate to say it, and I'm talking longer than I want because my throat hurts here, but the whiskey market is about to burst.
Coming down. Yeah.
Dame, I don't know if you're reading a story about Brown-Forman or not, but they just laid off like 12% of their workforce. Brown-Forman is Jack Daniels. They closed a cooperage, which is a barrel making facility. Like, I can't believe it, but it's actually busting. With that, I say, Dame, what's in the news this week?
Pete, I know you're not feeling very good, and so I tried to curate some stories that I know will make you feel probably even worse at this point. I know you're very fond of big banks, and so I actually have 3 stories that have to do with big banks.
Oh, good.
Lovely.
Big banks kicked off earnings season strong, with America's biggest bank, JP Morgan, posting its and any U.S. bank's largest ever full-year profit of just $58 billion. Its quarter 4 profits also jumped 50% compared to the year before. But meanwhile, quarter 4 profits over at Goldman Sachs, they were up 105%. And Citi and Wells Fargo also reported strong results for the quarter, which saw companies getting optimistic about the economy thanks to rising employment numbers and an expectation that Donald Trump's incoming administration will be business friendly. Pete, is it possible? And just search your mind, search your feelings. Is it possible that big banks are okay for us?
I don't know, but I know they're going to have an unbelievable next couple of years. Deregulation is going to be amazing. I would also note, of all the billionaires being talked about for the Trump administration, Jamie Dimon, not one of them.
Yeah.
And that there's no banking execs that are part of the whole thing, or right?
Point. Yeah, I don't think so. None that I've recognized, but yeah, I think you're right. Next story. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau may be running on potentially lethal amounts of espresso these days. The agency's been filing lawsuits and issuing rules nonstop for the past month. And this week, it sued Capital One, claiming it cheated customers out of $2 billion in interest. The lawsuit alleges that Capital One intentionally confused customers with 2 separate account options, the 360 savings account and the 360 performance savings account. I mean, it's like car nomenclature right there. You've got the Grand Am and the Performance Grand, whatever. The CFPB claims that Capital One forbade employees from telling existing customers about the 360 Performance Savings Account, which had a higher interest rate than the standard 360 savings account, and that it allegedly kept interest rates for the 360 savings account artificially low, around 0.3 to 0.5%, despite marketing the account as having a high rate. Capital One denies the claims, because, of course, saying it marketed the account widely and was transparent about its terms.
Kristen, the CFPB's toast next week, isn't it?
That's what they tell me.
No, I mean, really, like, it's gone next week, I think.
Okay.
Maybe not next week, but yeah.
Maybe. But can I make a confession?
Sure.
You don't know what the CFPB is?
No.
Oh.
I mean, yes, I do. But no. Do I?
Come on, Cricket.
I
Out with it.
I don't know that I think that Capital One did anything wrong.
I agree with you, actually. I didn't want to say it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think they did. We have packages and branding and stuff around here. Sometimes you just add plus or core. You add a word, and it's accidentally confusing, but it's not meant to be.
They didn't allow their people to tell their clients about a better option.
That sounds.
They didn't allow them, or they didn't encourage them.
That's what the copy says. It said lawsuit alleged that Capital One intentionally confused customers with 2 separate account options, and that it forbade employees from telling existing customers about the 360 performance account.
Well, the forbade is definitely changing my opinion on what I just said. Forbade is a strong one. Dame, what is Kristen even talking about? Shame on you, Cricket.
For shame.
They're completely in the wrong. Goodness gracious.
Anyway, CFPB is gone.
I don't think so. Last big bank story. $230 million. That's the amount of penalties that American Express has agreed to pay over deceptive and strong-arm tactics used to sell credit cards and wire services to small business customers. Amex said that it had cooperated with authorities to address the issues and that the problems had ended in 2021 or earlier. So we have banks with wonderful, wonderful returns, and we also have banks that are being accused of shenanigans.
Oh, okay. But how much did they have to pay again, American Express?
Pocket change, $230 million.
Exactly. And they made how many billions? Like, come on.
Did you see the Robin Hood fine this week?
No.
No.
What? I
No.
can't believe you didn't even have it in your stories.
Well, there were so many fines this week, I couldn't keep up.
Yeah, I think it was. I'm pulling it up right now. $30 million. Robin Hood was fined. Oh wait, $70 million. Hold on.
Why?
Keeps going up.
Oh, these are different stories.
Oh.
I've seen stories over the years. In 2020, they were fined. Oh, this is amazing. 2020 early, they were fined 10 million. Later in the year, they were fined 65 million. In 2021, they were fined 70 million. In 2022, they were fined 30. And there was another story this week. It was like 40 or something $million. Robinhood be getting fined.
Yeah.
That's who they are.
Hey, tax season opens January 27th. Congratulations to all you who celebrate.
Your household celebrates. That's how the mortgage gets paid.
That's right.
All right. I hope I have a voice next week. I mean, this is not great. This is not great. If not, Cricket's got her voice, and she stands with big banks.
Hmm.
I like Cricket a lot. Too much. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Be sure to watch the show at YouTube, youtube.com/Pete the Planner. Sending you good vibes. Good vibes are all this in the budget. This is the Pete the Planner Show. You know, the thing is, in the coming weeks, we're going to have to explain all the little weird jokes of the show. Like when I say stay getting money at the end, we're going to have to like bring that back, help people understand it. And then because it happened in the moment, then became a thing, it actually gets dumber to explain.
Well, this is what you've created.
Well, okay, so let me practice that explanation that I'm going to have to give in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Hey, for new listeners, at the end of the show, I say stay getting money. Stay getting money. And it's because E40, one of my favorite rappers who you've never heard of, in a song says the lyrics, stay getting money. And I think it's a funny turn of phrase. So at the end of the show, I say stay getting money. And that's why we say it.
Okay.
See how dead that falls?
Yeah.
It's not great.
Not great. Not great at all.
I think you're better just not explaining it.
Agreed.
Somebody
Really?
wants to know, they'll email in.
There's just like, there's 15 years worth of dumb inside jokes I'm going to have to like get people up to speed for.
Isn't that what producers are for?
No.
To explain that stuff?
How could they?
They can make stuff up.
We're not
Yeah.
giving them a microphone.
Cannot wait for. So are Dame and Pete related?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
I very nearly decided to dig through an old t-shirt drawer and see if I could find my not related t-shirt, but I think it's gone by this point.
Is Kristen their daughter?
Uh-huh.
Are they a same-sex couple and Kristen is their daughter? Yes. That's what it is. That's the dynamic.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Oh,
I mean, you two dress alike. I'm the look. I mean, look, you've got the
We're
same.
not wearing the same shirt. Just
Okay, Steve Jobs.
basically the same shirt.
All right, I gotta go.
Okay.
Okay.
And as we always say around here, stay getting money.